candles first. Just go right into it. I asked him if he were Hebrew or English. Well, he said it had been great. You did? Yeah. He studied Tanakh. That would do it. Yeah.
Let's take one. Hello? It's Shabbos. Hine matov. Hine matov u'manayim. Shabbat achim gam yachad. 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 Hine matov u'manayim. Shabbat achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Welcome, good Shabbos, good evening. It's great to see all of you here joining us for this week's Kabbalat Shabbat worship service. We will begin our service this evening on 120, welcoming in Shabbat by adding light to creation. And I'm going to ask Lori Herman and Ashley Chanel to come to the bima to kindle our Sabbath lights.
Melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
They say that man plans and God laughs. I had a great idea of what to talk about tonight. I was going to talk about faith and uncertainty, about going on journeys that our lives demand, how we should always seek out the good in unsure situations, just as Joshua and Caleb did in this week's Parsha, Shalach Lecha, when they were sent along with the other spies to search through the promised land. And then this morning happened. And the news came out of Washington from the Supreme Court, and I paused. I have to be honest, I'm struggling. Struggling with the decision of striking down Roe v. Wade as a Jew, as a rabbi, and as someone, an individual, a person who sees choice, not just that choice that it speaks of, but choice as sacrosanct. So I struggled all day. And I turned then to words that I have already spoken a number of years ago, and I wish to share with you today The words of my senior sermon at the Hebrew Union College when I was a fifth-year rabbinical sermon that speaks to this topic and was delivered, so you get the context of why I'm talking about a different Torah portion, on Shabbat Vayikra, the Shabbat of the first words of Leviticus. These are the words I shared that morning. When he was a child, the seer of Lublin lived near a forest. Almost daily, the young boy ventured off into the woods by himself. His father, who was basically a tolerant and understanding man, didn't want to interfere with his son's daily excursions. But he was concerned because he knew that forests could be dangerous. One day, the father pulled his son aside. "I notice that every day you go off into the forest," he said. "I don't want to forbid you to go there, but I want you to know that I'm concerned for your safety. Why is it that you go there, and what is it that you do?" "I go into the forest to find God," was the boy's simple response. His father was deeply moved. "That's beautiful," he said, "and I'm pleased to hear that you're doing that. But don't you know God is the same everywhere?" "God is," the boy answered, "but I'm not." The seer knew that he needed to be in the right frame of mind to find God. So he snuck off to the solitude of the forest each day. But his father's message rings true as well. God is everywhere and is always calling to us, as it says in that week's Torah portion, Vayikra Adonai. God calls to each and every one of us. We just need to find our place in the world, our own spot in the forest, where we are able to hear the call and respond. What is it that God is calling us to do? The answer can be found by reading ahead just a few chapters in the book of Leviticus. God calls to the people of Israel in words that we read each year, both at its weekly spot and on Yom Kippur. God calls each and every one of us and says, "Kedoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem." You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. How does one become holy? Baruch Levine writes in the JPS Torah commentary that Leviticus provides many matters of ritual concerns as we understand the term, proper worship and observance of the Sabbath. So holiness can mean worship. Leviticus also legislates that in addition to ritual action, holiness is achieved through interactions with our fellow human beings. As Levine continues, even proper attitudes towards others are commanded. Ramban, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, a 12th century rabbi and commentator on the Torah, suggested that the commandment to be holy is the key to the fulfillment of the entire Torah. Rather than standing alone, it must illuminate the performance of each and every commandment. We must, as Ramban explains, fulfill our sacred obligations with proper kavanah, with proper intention. This kavanah, this intentionality, ensures that we do not take advantage of legal loopholes in the text that would allow us to act crudely, selfishly, or opportunistically. In other words, the command to be holy makes certain that we follow both the spirit and the letter of the law. In the Plaut Torah commentary, which we have copies of out in the hall, Rabbi Bernard J. Bamberger teaches, the idea of holiness implies that what we do and what we make of our lives matters not only to us as individuals, not only to society, but to the entire cosmos. A divine purpose runs through all existence. We can ally ourselves to it or oppose it. Or, perhaps worse, we can ignore it. Rabbi Bamberger's point is that ultimately, we cannot avoid our responsibility to choose how we conduct ourselves. The choices that we make each and every day, made in the pursuit of holiness or not, have a profound impact not only on ourselves, but on all creation. Rather than ignore the responsibility we have been given, we must understand that the choices we make must be made in holy ways, for we have been commanded to be holy. In these choices we make each and every day, we use our beliefs and textual tradition as guiding lights. We make choices, whether or not to keep kosher, whether or not to be Shomer Shabbat, whether or not to come to services on a weekly, daily, or more basis, and the list goes on, including questions of observance and those that are moral or universalistic in nature. Some of these choices we must make are more difficult than others. And a challenge I have seen has centered around work I have done and I did do in rabbinical school with the Ohio Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. And that decision and that question is how to respond to the difficult question around abortion and women's rights. Many in our society use the teachings of their faith traditions to withhold a woman's right to make this profoundly personal and difficult choice. Some of the justifications for the anti-choice movement come from the textual tradition that Christians and Jews share. There are many who feel, using the biblical text as a guide, that abortion should not be an option. The first argument generally made by this camp is that human beings are created b'tselem Elohim, in the divine image. The argument is that because God was present at the moment of creation, God must be present at conception, because for those in this camp, conception is creation. If then life begins at conception and every life is sacred, created in the image of God, one cannot, this teaching goes, make a morally viable decision to end a pregnancy. Within our textual tradition, though, there are other readings. We have support for the belief that life begins not only at conception, but also for the belief that life begins at birth. In Mishnah Ohalot, we read, Yatsaru bo ein nogin bo, she'ein dochin nefesh mipnei nefesh. Once most of the child has emerged from the mother, it is not to be touched, for one life is not to be put aside for another. It is at this point, according to the Mishnah, that when a majority of the baby has come into the world, that it makes the tradition from fetus to human life. 11th century commentator Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, or Rashi, further explains this section of the Mishnah by stating, once the head has come forth, it is considered born. Jewish tradition does not consider traditionally the baby to be a living person until the moment of birth. Our tradition does, however, consider the fetus to be a potential life, and though valued differently, it is still valued and must not be terminated casually. Another argument made by religious anti-choice groups and individuals is that the 10 Commandments prohibit killing, and therefore we cannot kill the innocent fetus. However, there are some problems as well with this argument. First of all, there is the issue of how the verse is translated, since there is an important semantic distinction between the 6th commandment, lo tirtzach, you shall not murder, and how it is often translated, you shall not kill. But more importantly, the Mishnah, that since life does not begin until birth, then there is an argument to be made to what constitutes killing or murder. In effect, if life does not begin until birth, then the prohibition from the 10 Commandments would not apply. Finally, many pro-life websites posit that the decision whether or not to have an abortion is such a serious and emotional issue, it often eludes any clear or simple answer. Because of this, the argument goes, the benefit of the doubt should cause the decision to be the preservation of life. The problem here is that the argument does not provide justification for taking away the mother's right to make a holy choice for her own life. And that's the bottom line. Making the holy choice. Being someone who answers God's call, Kedoshim to you. You shall be holy. For Kedoshim does not only mean holiness, but also separation. In order to be holy, we as Jews need to separate ourselves from the traditions of other faith communities and turn to our own traditions, to search our own text, our own values, our own tradition, and decide what is right for each of us individually about a myriad of issues, including the issue of abortion and a woman's right to choose. We have a rich textual tradition to use to support and defend either position. So the issue of abortion is, in the Jewish tradition, a very controversial one. Reform Responsa supports the decision of the woman to terminate her pregnancy in a wide but not unlimited range of circumstances. While there has been much debate on this issue, one common point asserts that there is a difference between the life of the mother and the potential life of the fetus. This can be seen in the Torahitic account of a fight between two men in which a pregnant woman is accidentally injured. In this situation, the Torah teaches that if the fetus is lost, the punishment is a monetary fine. But if the woman is injured or killed, lex talionis takes over, the idea of nefesh tachat nefesh, ayin tachat ayin, shein tachat shein, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The Torah considers then the fetus a potential life, not yet a nefesh, not yet a human life. So the laws that govern the taking of a human life don't, according to the Torah, apply directly to the fetus. My teacher, Dr. Mark Wachowski, professor of halakha at the Hebrew Union College, writes that Reform Judaism assumes a pro-choice stance on this political controversy. We do not claim, he says, that a decision for abortion is always right. We insist rather that the determination of the rightness of the abortion can only be made by the woman herself in the context of her own life and religious commitments. That's the point. Jewish law has made us an Am Kadosh, a holy nation, by setting us apart from other faith traditions. Our tradition understands that abortion is a highly sensitive issue and that choosing to have an abortion is an extremely difficult decision to make. Yet the choice must, in my opinion, and in the text's opinion, be made by the woman with the advice and consultation of those in her immediate circle. As a people whose history and tradition teach that on every issue, including the issue that we have been discussing tonight, there is a holy choice to be made. We must be committed to a new direction. We must be committed to that direction where each and every woman has the tools and the legal and moral support necessary to make this decision, whatever that decision is. We must be committed to a direction where we who value our tradition and heritage do not allow the debate to be commandeered by other religious camps. We who understand Judaism's textual tradition and have adopted a pro-choice stance do not ask that those that disagree with us understand or follow our traditions. We ask only that they allow each of us the freedom, like the freedom the young man in Lublin had, to search out and follow God's call and become kadosh, that they allow each and every woman, and indeed each and every one of us, the right to choose. Now this morning, the issue of choice was framed as a question by the court as one of due process and whether or not the framers intended this particular right to be codified by the Constitution. But as you can see and hopefully understood from the words I wrote and from the teachings of our tradition, the question of choice is in many ways a question of religious understanding. Science cannot definitively tell us where life begins. And I believe, based on my faith and my understanding of my tradition, our shared tradition, as well as the arguments and justifications made by many who disagree with my stance, who preach the opposite, that the question is a religious question. Our tradition is very clear on the question of life, that it should be protected at all costs. In fact, in the Torah, we are told God has put in front of us goodness and evil, life and death, and we are to choose life. But our tradition is also clear that life begins at birth. We are also taught that we are all created b'tselem Elohim, created in that divine image with a spark of divinity within us. That spark allows us the ability to make choices in our lives while still treasuring life. It is not an either-or proposition or a zero-sum game. One can be anti-abortion while still believing that the state should not dictate the matter so definitively. And so in the wake of this decision by the majority of the United States Supreme Court, I, along with others, will keep standing to protect the rights of our mothers, sisters, wives, and daughters. We will not sit down quietly. Rather, we will scream from the rooftops if we have to, that justice stems from individual choices and freedoms. Many of us, I know, have heavy hearts tonight. For weeks, we did know this was coming, but the insight doesn't lessen the blow. And yet, as we gather here tonight on Shabbat, we breathe. We take that step back, and we hope that just for a few moments, however you feel about this morning's decision, we are all given a few hours of peace by Shabbat. May it help us find solace. May it help us find peace. And for those of us who are hurt, who are heartbroken, may it provide us with the rest needed to work for change. Rabbi Tarfon taught us that we are not required to finish the work, but we are not allowed to avoid it either. May we all have the strength to help to make our world a better place for all who reside in creation, as we lift our voices in song to enter into Shabbat and to gather the strength we need to do the work of Tikkun Olam, of repairing the world, page 130.
V'chuneranena l'Adonai, narial d'etzo yishenu, nikahat mafana betoda, v'izmirot narialo, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash.
Page 134. Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra. Together, sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and melodious song, with trumpets and the blast of the horn. Raise a shout before Adonai, the ruler. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly, and its peoples with equity. Page 136, Mizmor leDavid. Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim. Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz. Havu l'Adonai kavod shamo. Hishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. A psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. Together, the voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calve and strips forest bare. While in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned, sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being.
Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lekuvnelcha, ki mekor havaracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva orek umi ori, uri shidaberi, kevod Adonai alayek nigla. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, tochem u'neam segula. Boi kala, boi kala. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We transition now into our evening service with the Shema and its blessings on page 144 with the words of the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayei chonu yomeichon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kariv ve'immeru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'alam ulal me'al maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh ve'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimmeru amen. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai Havorach. Baruch Adonai Havorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokhmah poteach sharim uvitvuna mishaneh hitim umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim b'mishmaroteim barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, uma'avdil bein yom uvein layla Adonai tzvaot shemo, El Chai v'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Page 150.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Ahavta Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Otanu lemadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbenu Kumenu na'asiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei toratcha U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu V'orech yameinu Uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. V'ahavatcha al tahsil, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Ohev amo Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'afta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha, b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha, v'aderech, u'v'shochbecha, u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam le'od al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha, Lema'an tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Echem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Liyot Lachem Le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Milton Steinberg taught that salvation is the Jews' victory over human limitations, ignorance, or insensitivity. It is the conquest of sinfulness, of the evils resident within the self: pride, selfishness, hate, lust, cynicism, the deliberate rejection of goodness and truth. We turn now to these words that come from Torah, the words of the Michamocha, that celebrate our salvation, our redemption from slavery in Egypt, but remind us to work for our continued salvation, our continued freedom, and the freedom of all creation.
Yallai lai, yalla la la lai lai, yallai lai lai, yalla la la lai lai, yallai lai lai lai, yallai lai lai lai, yallai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Bikamocha ba'elim Adonai, bikamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele, nora tehilot osei fele. Malechutecha ra'u banecha, bokei ayam lipnei Moshe. Ze Elianu ve'ameru, Ze Elianu ve'ameru. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Bikamocha ba'elim Adonai, bikamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele, nora tehilot osei fele. Page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Ashkivenu leShalom, V'ha'amidenu Shomrenu lekayim, Ufros alnenu Sukat shlomecha. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Ashkivenu leShalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We turn now to page 162 for words from Torah, as we are reminded as we sing these words each week that as we I'm sorry, I'm waiting for Mikey to run in. As
it
we,
won't
as
happen
we
until
keep
I
Shabbat
sing.
each week, it will keep us and renew our souls.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We turn to page 164 as we rise for the tefillah.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai titach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ose shalom bimromav. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh, hu ya'aseh, hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh, hu ya'aseh, hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh, hu ya'aseh, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimromah. Oh, say shalom. Bimromah. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hallelujah. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down.
We pause in our service as we take a moment and think of those members of our community who are ill. Some are in the hospital, some are at home recovering, and some have diseases and illnesses from which they may never recover. We ask for God's presence to be with all of them, and this week we think especially of Caroline Eisenhart, Spencer Schilling, Larry Futterman, Marty Duke, Marty Barish, Gary Paul, Brian Berger, Chandler Jacobs, Dory Korn, Harriet Jacobs, Renee Fahn, Susan Abrams, Yael Bat David Vilea, Bev Mahone, Alan Friedman, Sarah Kahn, Lee Silverstein, Jill Vanteem, Eleanor Goodman, Yuli Makovich, Libby Routman, Laurel Phoenix, Marjorie Whitmore, Jerry Phillips, Claire Levin, Paul Kershaw, Reva Fisher, Leslie Knight, Bert Singerman, Stephen Schiff, Mateo Velasquez, Max Jacobs, Kathy Waldner, Richard Zuspin, Christopher Denton, and Phyllis Lapin. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of a prayer of healing, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours, or add their name at this time to the chat. Thank you. May God's healing presence be with all those we have named and all those we hold in our hearts. May God also care for those who care for the sick each day. May they be blessed with health and support, hope and love. May God watch over all the victims of violence around the world. God's healing presence be with all those we have named, all those we hold in our hearts, and indeed with all of us as we sing together this blessing on page 371.
Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Mi sheberach imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow, Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mi sheberach avotenu, mi sheberach imotenu. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
We turn now to page 586 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, shehu notesh shamayim v'yosed haaretz, umoshav yekaro b'shamayim mima'al, ushchinat uzo begovei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od. Va'anachnu kore'im u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo, echad.
Please be seated. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down in gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen, yet we do not despair. For we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat evening worship, we think longingly and lovingly of those taken from us both recently and at this season in years past. We are in a period of Shiva, the first 7 days since their passing of Wayne Reisner and Rita Jonas. And we mark the Artsites, the anniversary of their passing on this Shabbat, of Sidney Abrams, Arnold Leroy Badish, Larry Boxer, Milton Cohen, Jeannie France Gordon, Morris Hankin, John Hirsch, Molly Kaplan, Ben Karp, Ronald Kern, Rosalie Crandall, Mary Laban, Max Serlin, Karen Sugarman, and Harold Taustein. If you are remembering someone on this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours, or to add their name at this time to the chat. Zichronam livracha. May all their memories continue to be a blessing. And as we connect their names and their memories, those we hold in our hearts, to the millions of our people who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we rise as one community, turning to page 598 to speak these words which unite heaven and earth, the words of the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam la'omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kusha brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen.
Amen.
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all the bereaved here and everywhere with the blessing of peace. Together we all say, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru, amen.
Our closing song can be found on page 625. Please join us in singing Adon Olam.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malach,
Shem Malach.
B'terem kol,
B'terem kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chetz HaKol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'yacharei Ketlot HaKol, Leva'ado Yimlok Nora Adon Olam, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Hoveh, Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malach,
Shem Malach.
B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chetz HaKol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'hu Echad V'yein Sheni, Le'am Shelo Le'akbira Adon Olam, Ve'li Reishi, Ve'li Tachlit, Ve'lo Ha'oz V'ham Mishra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chetz HaKol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'hu Eli, V'chai Goali, V'tzur Chevli B'yitzara Adon Olam, Ve'hu Nisi, Umanosli, Menakosi B'yom Mekra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Sher Malach,
Shem Malach.
B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chetz HaKol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, B'yado akid ruchi, v'yedi sham v'yaira Adon Olam, v'im ruchi giviati, Adonai li v'lo ira Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, V'chetz HaKol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam.
Please be seated. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Good evening. Welcome again. It is great to be with all of you this evening for Shabbat. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude our service with Kiddush and Motzi and a final blessing, and then go have a Nash together at Oneg Shabbat. On Wednesday, our Primetimers Committee will have their next meeting to continue planning their next events and upcoming things throughout the year. And on Thursday, our Knitting and Crochet group will meet at 1 o'clock on Zoom. Next Friday is Kabbalat Shabbat with July birthday blessings. So join Mike next week for Friday night services. If you, just in general, but especially if you have a July birthday. With July coming up, just a reminder to all of those of you who have kids or know people with kids, tell them that our early bird registration for religious school ends at the end of June. There's still time to register afterwards, but it's better to do early bird. So after Shabbos, you can register for that. You can also register after Shabbos if you haven't yet done so for next Saturday evening. We are having an Independence Day barbecue and Havdalah and concert with Mike and Amy. It is going to be a great evening, a lot of fun. So
it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be like barbecue, not a grill, but actually
real barbecue.
Barbecue.
And good music. I've been listening to it for the
Really
last couple
good
weeks.
music.
And it should be a lot of fun. So make sure to sign up. You can go to our website and do so. But please make sure to come to that. It's going to be a really, really lovely,
Fireworks.
fun evening with fireworks.
There's fireworks
at the end.
afterwards,
Yes.
too.
So we'll kick off the 4th of July weekend with a barbecue here at CDT. Just a special thanks, Alan and Carol, thank you for ushering as often as you do and always greeting everyone with a smile. And
Opening the door for Lachadodi.
Yes, opening our door when we need you to, and being the master of the books, Alan. So thank you both for all of that each and every week, or all the weeks you're here. And then also, she stepped out, but if Leslie's out there, it was her birthday yesterday, so make sure to wish our president a happy birthday. And with that, Kiddush and Motzi, please rise and turn to page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit ki hu yom tehila l'mikra'ei kodesh Zecher letziat Mitzrayim Ki vanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim V'shabbat kodshecha b'yava u'v'ratzon Hinchalatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Chaim.
We uncover our challah as we sing together.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
And we ask for God's blessing. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'et kol v'nei adam b'shalom. May God grant strength to our people, and may God bless all of us, all Israel, and all of creation, with the blessing of peace. So together we all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. I have read this.
You actually could. Come here. Mike's book has something. I went out to he was like, oh my goodness, did I miss it? I was like, no. You can see it. Oh, no. That's this way and walk upstairs. So I just don't want you to walk. So if you walk, it's a little closer. She's going to walk. You can walk. As long as you're not running, you're fine. Just go a little bit if you want to see it. So it's cold. Thank you. Yes, so there's a silk cheese. The llama makes it, right? Or it's
Probably had to wait a couple days to test just to make sure that, because of how the exposure time.